Hi! Welcome to our Type 6 Enneagram video.
The spiritual sin of a Type 6 is fear, but you could better, more accurately describe it as anxiety because 6s are always imagining what could go wrong. They're the ones who grew up feeling like they weren't safe or secure, and so their deepest desire is for safety and for security. In order to handle all their fears, they come up with these worst case scenarios and a variety of different action plans to handle those worst case scenarios should they come to pass. Even when things are going really well, they're always waiting for something to come that would mess it up.
Okay, so I guess it's really obvious that 6s are in the fear triad, also known as the head triad or the logic triad. As Sophie mentioned, 6s usually grow up in homes where they didn't feel safe or there were a lot of unpredictable things happening. The unconscious message that a lot of 6s got was that it is not okay to trust yourself. So as a result, a lot of 6s actually doubt themselves a lot. And they look to other people like their friends, family, coworkers, other experts to kind of ask for their advice, their opinion. And even with that input, they might take that and be like, okay, so that's what you think, that's what you think, that's what you think. But here's what I think. But also, I might disagree with that. It can take them a long time to make a decision. In our Type 1 video, we mentioned that Type 1s have an inner critic voice. So if Type 1s have an inner critic, Type 6s have an inner committee.
It's whoever, not whomever.
No, it's whomever.
No, whomever is never actually right.
Well, sometimes it's right.
Michael is right. It's a made-up word used to trick students.
No, actually, whomever is the formal version of the word.
Obviously, it's a real word, but I don't know when to use it correctly.
Not a native speaker.
I know what's right.
So they have a series of different voices and they're all arguing with each other back and forth. They all present pros and cons of all sides. Because of that, 6s are really good at seeing two sides to every issue. And actually one of their nicknames is the devil's advocate.
So because 6s are very oriented around finding security, they're actually usually very preoccupied with authority figures. And here's the cool thing about 6s. There are actually two different types of 6s. So Jennifer, take it away.
All right. So there's something called the phobic 6 and then there's the counterphobic 6. Phobic 6s, they tend to be more loyal, submit to authority figures, and that's because unconsciously they believe by submitting to these authority figures, that's how they secure their safety. Phobic 6s tend to be a lot more committed to organizations, societies, different like groups of people, and so phobic 6s are not really the kind of person that would like rebel or push back or question things. On the other side of the 6, there is something called the counterphobic 6, and as you can imagine, they do the opposite of what phobic 6s do. They tend to be more rebellious. They're highly suspicious of authority and people in leadership because they actually don't trust that these leaders have their safety and their security in mind. So they're always like watching them very, very carefully to see like what will they do to reveal to me that they're not actually going to keep me safe. Phobic 6s, they flee from their fears and they look to like support systems and groups to kind of help them with the fears that they have. Whereas counterphobic 6s, they are the ones who are like, I'm gonna dominate my fear. I'm gonna like rise up and go up against my fear and I'm gonna conquer you. So actually for counterphobic 6s, it might be harder for them to immediately identify that they are in fact a Type 6 because it's not as apparent that they're motivated by their fear because they're so like game for like facing their fears. A great example of a counterphobic 6 is actually Batman. From the DC comic universe.
Flexible enough.
While some 6s are entirely phobic or entirely counterphobic, most 6s are like a complicated combination of both. The main point to take away is that no matter what type of 6 you are, all 6s are motivated by fear. They just react to it differently.
So the healthy 6 will move toward the 9, and so they will exhibit the healthier sides of a 9 where they start to believe everything will be okay and they don't have to worry about the worst case scenarios all the time. But an unhealthy 6 will start to exhibit the unhealthy characteristics of a 3, where they become aggressive and they focus on trying to become very competent and to give off this image of being secure and to distract themselves from the anxieties that they do feel.
Okay, now we're going to talk about ways to love your 6s. So if you have a 6 in your life, I think the most important thing to remember is not to make light of their fears. Don't be condescending to them. Don't be patronizing to them. Take their fears and their anxieties seriously. Hear them out. Walk with them through all of their worst case scenario thinking and planning. And show compassion when they ask for your opinion. Like, answer them seriously. Another thing is that 6s usually don't like surprises, so do not surprise your 6s. They want to be prepared for any situation, and they want to have planned already how they're going to handle or react to any situation that may come up. So surprises are not really good for them. And if you like told them you're gonna do one thing and you change your mind later, like always remember to hit them up and say, hey, I changed this thing, just so you know. And then the last bit is that 6s are the kind of people who feel closest to you when they know what's going on in your life and how you've been. So you know how there's lots of people who are like, hey, how are you? Okay, bye. 6s are not those kind of people. 6s, when they ask you, how are you? They're like sitting there waiting for you to actually respond. So feel free to tell a 6, like with all the little details of your life, they will listen to all of it like very, very gladly, and that's how they feel close to you.
That's good. Sorry. So lastly, for spiritual growth, 6s need to accept and believe the message that you are safe. God has got you and you are going to be okay in the end. So 6s need to cultivate the practice of faith and trusting in what you cannot see, hoping for what you do not yet have, and believing that God the Father is walking closely with you hand in hand through life. 6s also need to learn how to trust in their unique experience with the Lord and not look at how other people experience God and then doubt themselves. You hear from God too in your own unique ways, so don't be afraid to claim them. Okay, so that is all for the Type 6 video. Please let us know what you thought, any questions you have, all that stuff. Give this video a thumbs up and stay tuned. Our last video is on Type 7. Yes, so we are rounding out our last triad and we will see you in our last video. Bye!